Mosoma, Mosoma. Kuma, 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 kuma. Tangativo, umbusa tanga, neusama kosa. Alumuna, sisi au, yasama kosa. Amuna yeye, koma, sama kosa.
Hello, good morning. This is Tempo Afric TV's Beyond the Headline program, and I'm your host, Petros Haile. Today, we do have a special guest from the Gambia, Mr. Yoro Jallow. Mr. Yoro Jallow is not his first time to appear on the Beyond the Headline show, but since we requested him again to talk about the current development in the Gambia, he's here with us. Welcome back, Mr. Jallow.
Yes, thank you, Petros. Since we are comrades, I would just go by Yero. No okay. Mr. necessary. But I wanted to thank you so much to you and the management of Tempo Africa, Malik and Alion, who obviously are behind the scene, and the many others who are helping out. And I also wanted to thank my good friend Alassana Savadogo, who is from Ivory Coast. And I wanted to congratulate all of you for the victory that took place in the Gambia on December 2nd, December 2nd, 2016, the election that took place. Partly because you guys have contributed your best in helping Gambians. You didn't really sit down and say, you know what, I would focus on my country. You have extensively covered Gambia. And whatever we've been doing as activists, as co-editors of newspapers, as social media activists, you guys been doing the same thing. So that is really commendable. So first off, I just wanted to say congratulations to Tempo Africa as well for a victory well deserved. And I say I am so happy. Again, I am part of the Tempo Africa team, as and I am so happy to be here always, as and when needed. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Yoro. Since you allow me to call you by your first name, I'm going to call you Yoro for the rest of the show.
Thank you so much.
At the same time, I wanted to introduce Alassane Savadogo. Alassane Savadogo is from Burkina Faso. He was also a guest of Beyond the Headlines at one time. And the reason I chose Alassane Savadogo as a co-host for tonight is we talked about Burkina Faso some times ago. And relatively, it was a successful movement with less bloodshed. Came to a transitional government right after Blaise Compaoré was overthrown. And I believe it's a year or 2 years later, a military was trying to take over. And a strong civic movement were able to bring it back to order. So welcome, Alassane.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the panel.
Okay, thank you. So what I'll do is I'll start a couple of questions with you, then we'll go to our guest, Yoro. Do you mind telling us a little bit about the era of Blaise Compaoré and what happened after that, or even the background for the Blaise Compaoré to come into power?
Oh, thank you for the question. Compaoré came to power in 1987 after assassinating one of his best friends, Thomas Sankara.
Okay.
So he ruled for I mean, from 1987 to 1991 was a unique party, political party, which called Front Populaire. So that was the only party ruling the country until 1991. And after 1991, they opened it up to a multi-party system where they set up a constitution, and they allowed many political parties to be created.
Okay.
So, but the political party that have been created, most of them sided with the president party, and then they make what we call the presidential majority. And some of them were opposition party. They weren't able to counteract against the main party in power. So anytime there is a political party that has been created, and then the youth and the citizen try to rally those party as opposition party, and at some point they fail to carry out their ideas. So it's like they're getting corrupted, and then they give them money, and then they became voiceless. So, and the country was also corrupted. So it was a few elite on top had access to the resources of the country. So that kind of upset most of the citizens, especially the youth.
So
and then and the system was such that the president should be elected for 2 terms, and then after that, he goes, and then another person comes. But it hasn't been the case. They changed the constitution twice. And in 1998, after they assassinated the journalist Norbert Zongo, there was a turmoil, big turmoil. So they get together, and then they decided to bring back the constitution to 2 terms.
2 terms, okay.
Yeah. And in 2000, Compaoré should finish his second term in 2014. In 2015, normally.
2000, okay.
Yeah, after 1998 agreement. But he didn't want to leave out power. Toward the end, he wanted to change Article 37, which limited the presidential term to 2. And that kind of upset most of the citizens. And at some point, there was a civic movement created called, in French, the ballet citoyen, literally meaning the broom, the civic broom. Designed to clean up the mess of the republic, meaning that they have to promote good governance and corruption, and stand against corruption. So, but that civic movement was strong enough, because most political parties deceived the youth, so they decided to join that movement. And with what we are trying to promote, they clicked to the ideas was resonating with the youth, so they joined the movement. And when Compaoré wanted to change the constitution again, they stood up against that. And then it was a strong movement. There was another civic movement, but the main one is called the ballet citoyen. And they did a good job gathering the youth, and also there is a political party called the Sankarist.
Yeah.
But most of, at some point, the youth, they lost trust in those political parties. And then they joined the ballet citoyen movement, because the ballet citoyen movement was trying to carry out the ideology, the ideas of Thomas Sankara. So that kind of resonate with the youth. And, after Compaoré decided to change the constitution, they stood against that. And then, the movement was strong. And finally, they succeeded in stopping that.
He tried to attempts to change the constitution.
Yeah, exactly. So after Compaoré left power, I think 9 months later, there was a military coup
Okay.
the youth stood up against that military coup, and the coup failed, and they brought back the transitional government to organize the elections, and that's what happened.
And in that sense, it was a successful.
It was successful, yeah,
movement.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you know, in that scene, I wanted to go back to Euro, and you can help me out with some of the questions. Previously, we were discussing some of the events in the Gambia, and you're very well updated on the issues. Euro?
Yes, Petros, thank you.
You can hear me, right?
What was your question? I missed that, please.
No, I'm about to raise it right now.
Okay, go ahead.
The Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, I can read the report from BBC, then you can comment about that. BBC on December 2nd, Gambia's Yahya Jammeh surprised the world on 2 December by accepting that he had lost election to the relatively unknown Adama Barrow. 8 days later, Gambian President Yahya Jammeh has rejected the result of the election, which he lost earlier this month. In a reversal of his acceptance of the result last week, Mr. Jammeh cited abnormalities in the vote and called for fresh election. Can you say something about this incident?
Thank you, Mr. Haley. Again, first of all, before answering your question, I wanted to first pay tribute to Mr. Captain Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso, who was assassinated, decades back. A very good comrade, somebody whose educational and vision have still remained among freedom fighters. And he was attributed with the saying that a soldier without political education is virtually a criminal. So the young Thomas Sankara, who was assassinated by Blaise Compaoré and his people, and who stayed along all that time until recently. So I wanted to pay tribute to our freedom fighter, Thomas Sankara. And then I hope that justice will still be served. I wanted to also congratulate the people of Burkina Faso, especially our good friend and brother, Alassane Sabadogo. So Alassane, I wanted to say thank you. Now, having said that, Petros, you're right. As you followed, just like you rightly quoted from BBC, that on December 1, Gambians went to the polls. This was a very decisive moment. There are many things that has happened prior to this. So that day was D-Day for Gambians. So the three contesting political parties were Yahya Jammeh of the APRC, you have Mama Kande of the GDC, and then Adama Barrow of the coalition opposition, which is a group of 8 opposition parties and an independent came together, and then they backed Adama Barrow after they contested, for what is locally called primaries. So based on the results conducted by the IEC, which stands for Independent Electoral Commission, under the leadership of Momar Njai. His name is Aliou Momar Njai. He, after announcing the results throughout the night, in the morning of December 2nd, announced that there was a change in government, that he have had conversations with the outgoing leader, Yahya Jammeh, and that Jammeh have agreed, to concede defeat, and he will call Adama Barrow of the coalition and congratulate him. So within hours later, that was a televised speech, He called Adama Barrow and they had a conversation to say, I concede defeat to you. I congratulate you. You are the winner. You know, this is what God have decided after 22 years. I am willing to hand over power to you in January. So everybody at least applauded that move of his, even though, again, you know how in English we say I can forgive, but you cannot make me forget how you make me feel, especially for a very long time, Petros.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
So during that time, after that concession speech, which many people now, including myself, believe was just a ploy to buy time, he went and then he sat on it. He went and then was digging military tents. He armed his military, his chief of defense staff, and also there are something similar to the Republican Guards headed by one Sol Baji. And they created military tents, armed the soldiers, get them out there, and with sandbags. And then he came the Friday after, which is on the 9th of December. Well, first, he promised to work with the transition team of Adama Barrow, but then as they started the transitioning, then the Barrow coalition were informed that JAMMEH was going to come on national TV on Friday, December 9th, that they should wait. So that looked very suspicious and fishy, but they waited patiently. So on December 9th, JAMMEH came and said he was, just like you quoted on that article, he cited irregularities to where some of his supporters were not allowed to vote, that they were told that the coalition has won, that there were some violence, you know, recorded in some areas, and that there were some voters that didn't tally. You know, he went on and on citing those irregularities, saying that he was not accepting the results. But in his mandate or in his power, any contesting party doesn't have the power to nullify election results. That is in the hands of the IEC chairman. And Petros, let me know, stop me wherever you want me to stop, okay, if you have any follow-up questions.
No, go ahead, no problem.
So he doesn't have the power under Gambia's 1997 constitution and electoral decrees to nullify the election results. He doesn't have that power. But he came already on TV and said he is nullifying the results. So that was ill-advised on his side, and that was wrong. And that is even, it constitutes treason. It is a treasonable crime. So second, he also said, you know, a couple of days later, when he realized probably after consultation, he might have realized that he doesn't have that power, because then the coalition team came up with a very strong legal defense to where they said, look, you're going out in January. The new president-elect is Adama Barrow. Under Gambia's constitution, you have no right to nullify the election results. So his only option, according to Gambia's constitution, was to go to the Supreme Court to ask for redress of justice. And, you know, mind you, Petrus, we are law-abiding people. We are believers of the law. We do not have any problem with anybody going to the law to seek redress. The only problem is there haven't been a sitting Supreme Court judge or judges. Normally, the Supreme Court should have a panel of 6, but there wasn't anybody who was sitting to receive the petition that JAMMEH was going to file. 1, 2, to hear the case, you know, because in order for this case to be heard, there have to be a competent court of law, a competent court of law. But recently, you know, be that he is a party to this, he cannot appoint judges who will go ahead and hear the case, because that in itself is biased. So what ended up happening, again, you know, as you know, the Nigerian mercenary judges, who are after their money, who are hell-bent on just anything, you know, Connie, he is using them, and he was able to file his petition, which he is which basically per Gambia's constitution he's able to do within 10 days after the election results.
Okay, before we get to the next one, how independent the electoral commission was? It seems to be functioning well, if the opposition can be able to win, taking power from this brutal dictator, Judge
Right.
JAMMEH. Can you comment about that one?
Yeah. I must be very honest with you. That the Independent Electoral Commission have been criticized extensively, including myself. Partly because of the history that we had with the predecessors of the person who is there. We had in the past one Jibril Roberts. We also had Mustafa Keroyo, who were an arm of the APRC, that is JAMMEH. In difference to that, Ali Momanjai, from the time he came, he keeps saying that, look, I am an independent person. I am going to do what is right. Whoever is the winner, I'm going to say you are the winner. And people didn't believe him just because of the history that people had. But one has to give a lot of credit to Ali Momanjai now, and I personally do. And I even reached out to his son, and I do have his contact, and I intend to reach out to him in the near future just to congratulate him and commend him for doing what is right. He really made a name and history for himself by doing what is right, and that the guy came out, he said he's not scared, that he's going to do the right thing, and he went ahead and did the right thing. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, in his case, we really have to give him credit. He really showed independence. He really showed that there are still people who can be trusted out there. But something else happened after December 9th. JAMMEH, as you followed, went and sent his military, and they sent Ali Momanjai and his team home. So basically, they seized the Independent Electoral Commission house. That is under the custody of the Gambian state right now, to which obviously many organizations, including the American Embassy in Banjul, condemned that. They condemned the seizure of the election house, as you call it, Independent Electoral Commission, by these soldiers. But back to your question, whether he was independent, based on the developments that happened and based on the interviews he did, Ali Momanjai did on BBC, on the online radios, including Freedom Newspaper, including Senegal, some interviews he did with some local journalists there. If you ask me now, I would say he really been very independent and honest. If you ask me prior to the election, you probably would have, you would have had something different. And I, didn't mince my feelings. I went ahead and I apologized, to his family openly for having, and I am not the only one. There are many, many, many Gambians who need to really, apologize, because he was criticized widely. And for a good reason too. It wasn't really bad that he was being engaged. But the truth wouldn't have come out if JAMMEH was the winner of this election, because people would have still think that he acted, unfair. But the fact that the coalition won and he was able to call the shots and he didn't even mince his feeling, he came out openly, discussed it on radio, on BBC, and he even said nothing changes the results. And this man was so composed, he's so organized. I am willing to give it to him now, quite honest.
Okay, thank you. Alassane, do you have?
Yeah, I have a question. They said that, I was reading in the news, and they said that the military took custody of the Electoral Commission, office. So, and they took the materials. So, don't you think that they're going to falsify, the ballots, and then maybe try to make their case in the Supreme Court and win. In that case, what would the international community do?
Thank you, Alasana, and it's a good question. I want to say this from Aliu Momanjai himself. He said the results were published and they were in fact posted, the countrywide. And these were also announced on radio and television. So what he said was, even if that house was burned down, he said that would not change the verdict of the Gambian people. And he said it very strongly. So yes, there is no doubt that JAMMEH and the APRC cohorts will try to manipulate or find fault or find loopholes here and there, but that won't change the verdict of the Gambian people. And like I said, the American embassy came up with a very strong condemnation. They said they are with ECOWAS. They condemned the occupation of the election house by Gambia's military, and they need to allow those people to be free, and then they need to leave the vicinity, except in the case of providing security. So again, JAMMEH can do whatever he wants to do. Obviously, we know he's determined to do whatever fault he can find, but that won't change the verdict of the Gambian people. And you've heard also, as early as this morning, we saw on the news that Buhari of Nigeria, President Buhari, he said he is determined to cross JAMMEH. He will go after him, and JAMMEH will not be there past his mandate, which is on the 18th of January. He will not be there past that mandate. And that's, the reaction of the international community, including AU, including United Nations, including ECOWAS locally, including Senegal, including all the countries that you think of, honestly, including Russia. They are all supporting the Barrow coalition, and they have asked JAMMEH to step down and avoid further putting the country into political problem.
Yeah, that is one of the questions that I was planning to ask you. I know ECOWAS met concerning the Gambian issue, and the European Union as well. What specific measures are they planning to take against JAMMEH?
JAMMEH. Well, thank you, Petros. Well, here is what they did for us. As you followed, the president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the president of Nigeria, Buhari, the outgoing president of Ghana, and then the president of Sierra Leone, Koroma. So and then the United Nations had a representative also. So they, right after JAMMEH made the announcement, they went and they met with him. The discussion didn't go well because they asked him to step down. They asked him to leave the country, which JAMMEH himself said on TV. And they asked him not to put the country into further political, to destabilize the country. JAMMEH, I used very harsh word against them, information that is coming out, obviously, and then he rejected. So they were to meet in Nigeria on the Saturday that followed their meeting, and they met in Abuja, in Nigeria, and they all agreed by consensus that they are ready to take on JAMMEH, including up to military action. So what we are looking at now, we are looking at a series of steps, because then people have to protect life, we have to protect property. It would have been easy for them to jump on Gambia and just remove him like what happened in Ivory Coast. But then Gambia's situation is a little different, knowing how determined JAMMEH is just to kill. This is somebody who's been killing and maiming and jailing and doing all the kind of stuff. So he is still determined to do that. So they have to be very careful the way that they're going to deal with him. So back to your question, the measures that can be taken based on reports that I'm following, which are very current, is that first, they on the 18th or on the 19th of January, Adama Barrow is going to be sworn in. And once Adama is sworn in, then Jammeh becomes an illegal president. In other words, he will be a rebel leader. And there cannot be two presidents or two governments in a country like the Gambia. So essentially, once Adama is sworn in, all the representatives, foreign representatives of Jammeh become illegal. That means none of his foreign representatives are going to have any power, because then no international community is recognizing them. That means you don't have an embassy in the United States, you don't have an embassy in Senegal, you don't have embassy in France, you don't have embassy anywhere. Basically, you are isolated diplomatically, and that's just one of the things.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to follow up with a question. If
yes, go ahead. And
that's
then
the
just
case,
before you ask your
Adama
question,
Barrow sworn in, and then he becomes legally the president, but he doesn't have the institution. Since he doesn't have the army, in his side, so
yes.
how is he going to rule the country? Because the military is, that's the first power he should have with him. So
yes.
if he doesn't have that power, how is he going to rule the country?
Well, Alassane, an interesting question, and I was in fact going to get to that, but I'm glad you caught that. So here is what ECOWAS and the regional ECOWAS and AU and UN and all the sympathizing world countries are able to do, and it's very simple. First, obviously, from Buhari's speech this morning, which I followed on the media, that they say they have chosen Senegal because of its geographical location with the Gambia. Of course, we know that Senegal surrounds the Gambia on its three sides, and on the fourth side, we have the Atlantic Ocean. So this is strategic. Also, what Buhari said is that there are special forces that are on alert. Should Jammeh do anything stupid, that they will go and then protect Barrow, and then be willing to take Jammeh heads on. But what ECOWAS is doing now is to respect the international community, to respect the laws of the constitution, which is part of respecting the sovereignty of a country, is making sure that there isn't any interference. But in this case, past the 18, it is not going to be called interference. It is going to be called defense of Gambia's. It is in defense of the Gambia and her people. So what, if you ask me, in my mind, not that I've had it anywhere, what I would think of is, if these special forces were to go and capture where Barrow is, for example, because the first goal is to protect Barrow and the coalition, and they can declare that area a no-go zone for Jammeh. And of course, Gambia's military might, is not as extensive as Senegal. Senegal, as you know, have the backing of France, and Senegal also, have a joint pact with America. There are many U.S. soldiers who are in Senegal. So who knows, any of those countries could give the logistics, including even surveillance and, and Senegal is very sophisticated. We have to really, give credit where it's due. So that's just one part.
Okay.
Once they declare, once Barrow is sworn in and they are able, the special forces get in and they are able to get Barrow before obviously Jammeh would have caught him or any of his partners, then they close that location. And if you know the geographical location of Gambia, the State House in Banjul is just symbolic for power. But Banjul is very small. Banjul is very small. And then Kanilai, there are only two places. Apart from the military barracks, what we have is the symbol, which is in Banjul, and the other one that Jammeh constructed in Kanilai, which is at the border of Senegal. of course, Jammeh will not be in Kanilai because that's at the border of Senegal, and Senegal can stand at the border and just cross them out.
Euro, if I interrupt, in terms of the military option that you're talking about, how honest can Senegal be in dealing with the Gambian internal issue? Can they be honest brokers?
Yeah, I want to say this. I've been very critical of the Macky Sall government, obviously, for some things that, didn't go well the way I wanted them to. One of my criticism of Senegal, obviously, when they deported Gambians from Senegal to Mali in the case of Kukwai Samba Sanyang, and also that they agreed to be pushed so hard to the wall by JAMMEH. But I understand why, because JAMMEH is close to Casamance. And what he have done is to tell Senegal, you touch me, I'm going to give these arms to Casamance, and they're going to destabilize your country. I understand that. However, I've been a fan of the president that went out, which is Abdoulaye Wade. I was a very good fan of him. And one thing that is very clear, Gambia and Senegal are the same people. They are the same people, and nothing is going to divide Gambia and Senegal. So yes, I do trust that Macky Sall, he has proved to be a very hard-working person, and I have to give him that respect. And I believe he will do the right thing. I believe with ECOWAS, AU, UN, and all these countries backing him, I believe the job will be done, and it will be done effectively. However, I still hope that now against the 19, JAMMEH will do himself and Gambians a favor and leave, so that people will avoid bloodshed, so that people will avoid destruction of property and structures, so that this fear mongering and the displacement of people will stop. As I'm talking to you right now, there are many people who even ran to Senegal. There are people who are going to Senegal just because they don't know when the heat is going to take place. But I believe Macky Sall is a genuine player, despite any criticism that I may have against him. I came to respect him more even, when he agreed to step down at some point without having to continue. I believe he said 8 years. I think that was really commendable, and I also appreciate his statesmanship in the region. I believe he's a mature political player. But other than that, I believe him going to Gambia, even though there might be conflicts of sovereignty and all that, but Senegal is not there to take Gambia. They are just there to help liberate Gambia. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, yes, it did. Okay. Alassane, yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit and then try to, find out why, JAMMEH reversed. He changed his mind a week after conceding to defeat Adama Barrow. So, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, Alassane, thank you. That's a good question. Me and you and Petros and whoever, we are not going to come here and speculate. We are going to say it as it is. I can tell you, from my point of view, I can tell you the reasons why JAMMEH is not, after his concession, he decided to reverse what he stated. I can tell you right now. If you follow JAMMEH, for the past 22 years, there is nothing of crime that this guy didn't do. There is nothing of crime, from imams who are the local Islamic leaders, from the military who he brutalized, from ordinary citizens, from businessmen. He took over the whole country, and he called it his country, and he insulted these tribes. He jailed the opposition. And he knows there is something called justice. So with all that he have been saying, and now he is put to shame, he is not willing to see that happen. That's number one. You can take that to the bank, and you can say, Yero said, the reason why JAMMEH is refusing to go, and it's one and only reason, is because he wants to stay in power. He don't want people to come after him for the crimes he committed, but he don't have a choice. Every citizen have to face justice. Remember, we are not saying vengeance. We are not saying, any attack or anything. But every citizen, including myself or any other person who is believed to have committed a crime or committed a crime, must really face justice. So JAMMEH's main decline of the election results after a week is just in fear of being served with justice. That's one.
Okay.
Thank you.
My question is actually, some people say one of the biggest mistake JAMMEH did is the detention of the opposition leader, Oceano Darbo. And you can also answer the JAMMEH's elimination of the major ethnic group in the Gambia, which is Madinka.
Right. Just to say, I wouldn't say that's one of the biggest mistakes. I would say that is one among the many mistakes that JAMMEH made. Remember, this is not the first time he have arrested Ousainou Darboe. Darboe have been arrested before, and his supporters have been arrested, others killed, others maimed, others jailed. So it wasn't just a single-handed, but that is one of the major things when he arrested and jailed Darboe. You can tell from Darboe's own words, it aroused the conscience of the Gambian people. The killing of Solo Sunday, thoughtfully, Gambia's Steve Biko, who went out to demonstrate for electoral reform, and he was killed the very night that they caught him. And then, you saw the demonstration that took place outside those courts. So that is one area. And added to that, this is just JAMMEH for you and me and for every other person. JAMMEH have cost every person in that country, including, saying that he was going to cross the Mandinkas. The Mandinkas are thoughtfully the largest ethnic group in the Gambia. Thoughtfully about 42% of Gambia's population. Even though I don't believe, because he's been using the same language throughout, where he insulted them, saying he will bury them 9 feet deep and all that. But, in this case, I think there were a lot of factors that contributed. And one of them was, obviously, like you rightly said, was the jailing of lawyer Ousainou Darboe and his UDP executive. It was, the last straw that broke the camel's back.
Lasan, you have a question?
Or not? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
From a different angle, the coalition, which they elected Adama Barrow as a flag bearer, you think that coalition will sustain? It seems to be a very loose coalition.
Your question is whether they will sustain themselves to the end, right?
Yes.
Here is what I believe. I really want to give it to them. They have a very strong backing. Adama himself has proved to be very humble, very down-to-earth person. And he have political giants like Halifa Sallah, Sidia Jatta rather, and many others in the background who are politically seasoned, like Omar Amadou Diallo, who was part of the former PPP regime. You might disagree with some of their policies at individual level or even collective level, but I believe they are very politically mature, and they have demonstrated that so far in many ways. One thing that we must press, obviously as journalists, as activists, as concerned citizens, as world citizens, we must ask them to come up with a cabinet now. A cabinet is way overdue. A cabinet is way overdue, and because a cabinet is the face of an organization or a political party or a leadership. Part of an article that I already wrote, the article will be published in the next couple of days, is engaging the new leadership in Banjul. Our national flag must not fall. So part of my argument is obviously security. That's one area. I also touch on the fact that the coalition have to come up with a cabinet. That's one. Then the second thing, to whether they have tackled JAMMEH well so far, yes, they did. They refused to go out to the streets with their supporters so JAMMEH can shoot them or arrest them. They refused to do that. And whatever JAMMEH have said, they came out and, supported it legally, supported against it legally to say that JAMMEH, you don't have this mandate, you don't have this power, the Constitution says you should leave and you must leave. So they are really speaking at a very high language, which Gambians appreciate right now. Also, I just want to say this for the records. I know leadership is not easy. Wherever you see two or more people come together, there are obviously problems abound, and there are differences abound. These are people from different political parties, and you can expect that those little things, especially when it comes to sharing of portfolios, we are all human beings, and I don't expect that those things will just be free without having some of those issues. But they're negligible. They're negligible. That is too small for me. I believe these people will still see the Gambia situation, and everything seems to be a learning lesson for them, for us, and for every person who is following. I believe they will do good, and the very fact that Adam Barrow is going to be there just for 3 years, to me, that gives me hope, that after 3 years, each and every one of them will go to their political base, and then they will go ahead and contest elections, and, to me, that really gives me hope, and I hope now against then they will have a time limit to the presidency, and then all that good stuff. But that is it, yeah. Okay. I think that they will do good. I haven't seen anything otherwise yet, honestly, and I'm willing to give them a chance, and I also ask my Gambians counterparts or Gambian friends and family, and also even the international community, those of you all, to give them a chance and engage them, obviously criticize them where criticism is due, and to support them where support is necessary, as we've been doing all along.
Thank you. I guess Alassane have a question.
Yeah, I have a question. JAMMEH has been in power for 22 years. When it comes to human rights, I know that's the dark side of, his presidential lifetime. There's been a lot of human rights abuses. Well, let's see the economic side. What positive things can we put to the credit of Yahya presidential lifetime? Are there any positive things that he can he can have as credit?
Yes, you really beat me hard, because I normally, my bias didn't allow me to talk much about JAMMEH's good side. But obviously, even in our local languages, they say that a bad person won't be killed in a gathering, because there will be at least one person who will come out and say so-and-so is good. Well, let's look at things. You're right, human rights abuses, JAMMEH is the worst, as I followed. He is the worst criminal leader that I have ever come across or read about. Now, having said that, on the good side, obviously, we know that Gambia was without a university when he came. There was a Gambia college. JAMMEH came up with a university, or at least a university came under his watch, and that's one. But also, the problem with it is quality of education. Even though you cannot just have mere structures without 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 what makes it that structure. So the quality of education, of course, went down, even though there is a university, and there are a lot of graduates, of course, to degree level, but then the job market is not there for these undergraduates or graduates even. Now, talking about medicine or hospitals, that he built some hospitals, even though, again, the welfare or the Medicare system went down from when I was a child, or when I lived in the Gambia, when you can go to a hospital and you will get proper medication. Right now, you go to a hospital, all you will do is to go to the pharmacist, and the medicine is all privatized, very expensive. There are these hospitals that don't have proper trained doctors. Many people were critical of the Cuban doctors. We have a lot of Cuban doctors there, and people were critical of those people in many ways. However, the story remains that yes, there are many graduates, including even in the field of medicine, who are working at the hospitals. I believe if that means anything good, that's something that you can talk about. But other than those, on the human rights, even with that, there is nepotism, there is all these things that are happening. So that nullifies whatever good thing that you can talk about JAMMEH, obviously. But since you asked, I really just have to be honest and state that there wasn't a university before JAMMEH came. There wasn't a television before JAMMEH came. And even though that television is only used for JAMMEH's propaganda, that the television only shows JAMMEH's program, he doesn't show the opposition, except in the case of the elections here. But there wasn't a television, there wasn't there wasn't a university, and those things obviously came under his watch. I don't know if that answered your question, Alassana.
Oh, it does. It does. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe this could be the last question, Euro. What would be the likely scenario if JAMMEH refused to step down?
Oh, I thank you so much, Petros. That he have already said he will not step down. I don't know if you listened to the speech he made just 2 days ago. There were these lawyers, or who call themselves African Lawyers Association, who visited him, and he said there is no inauguration on the 19th, and he will not step down. So now your question is, what will happen if he refuses to step down? Well, he already did. He refused to step down. That's one. Because then we go by what he's saying, and we know he means what he's saying. So what's going to happen next is going to take a process. We can expect that the political situation is going to get very tense. You can expect that the international community are going to keep on bombarding him. You can expect that Gambians, especially Gambia's activists, are going to keep on. The Petros Haley's at Tempo Africa and Alassana Salvadogo are going to continue to call out JAMMEH and ask him to leave. The embassies, foreign diplomats are going to continue to meet with him and ask him to leave. And some countries, I've already heard Mauritania have offered him. This is unconfirmed, but I just want to say that's basically what I've heard, that Mauritania have offered him sanctuary. I do not know how true that is. So what's going to happen, let's say come on the 18th or 19th, that he refuses to leave, all his diplomatic ties are going to be cut off. ECOWAS, with the backing of the United Nations, Ivan Chambers, who is the special representative of Africa on the UN chair, that's Ivan Chambers, he already said that they are considering a military option. Well, Buhari made it very clear. Macky Sall, when he met the French President Hollande, also made it very clear. So these special forces are going to go into the Gambia on the 19th. On the 19th, these special forces are going to go and protect Barrow and his coalition. That's one. And they are going to show that he is sworn in. And then from there, they will fight to make sure that they wreck the JAMMEH administration down, to fight until when he is killed, or to fight until when he is arrested in the case of Bagbo of Cote d'Ivoire. And then obviously then JAMMEH will be tried in competent courts of law, even though the international community may be tempted to have him tried outside, but Gambians believe that he should be tried in the Gambia because there are competent courts to try him. But just to let you know, JAMMEH is wanted in a lot of things, including even in the United States here. You follow that the Guinean one-time leader, General Bubuna Chuto, is here. He was the one they got on the source of the sea, who was doing drug peddling, and that's a close aid to JAMMEH. So we know there is a lot of things that are waiting for JAMMEH, and which is part of the reason why he will not leave. But if he really wanted to safeguard bloodshed, if he really wanted to at least face justice and not be killed or any of that, it's high time he turned himself to justice. I said it before, and I'm repeating the same thing. I am not saying anybody should go and hurt JAMMEH, but he should face justice. If the rule of law frees him, then so be him. He'll be a free man. If the rule of law falters him in anything, then so like any other citizen, there is nobody who is above the law. We are law-abiding people, and we follow the law, and that is that.
Thank you, Yero, for this brief current history on the Gambia. Yero Jallow is a co-editor of Gainako newspaper, and is also an advocate for justice. And as a co-host, Alassane Savadogo, thank you for helping me. On this note, we'll end today's program, and we'll talk to you next week with a different guest. Have a nice one. Thanks.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you so much,
Mosoma. Tangativo ongu satanga ne usama kosa. Alumuna sisi au ya sama kosa. Amuna yeye, koma, sama kosa.